Hi everybody and welcome to Love Handles. Gary and I are going to facilitate some conversations for you and we're really looking forward to it. I think this is going to be fun because we're setting you up to chat about love and dating and romance and sex and marriage and all of those good things, which can be awkward to talk about sometimes, but we trust they lead to lots of laughter and lots of fun and really lots of freedom because God's got amazing stuff in mind for us. The kinds of marriages and the quality of sex that are available to Christians, I think, are one of the biggest reasons to become a Christian, despite what popular culture might have told you. So really, really good things are available if we follow God's instructions, but the truth is, romantic relationships can be complicated, bro.
Absolutely. Relationships are complicated because people are different. And not only are men and women very different from each other, but men are different from other men, women are different from other women. Everyone is unique, and so we have to navigate some of those differences. Recently, as a staff, we did a Myers-Briggs test, which is a personality test. And basically what it does is it measures different variables within a personality profile. And so you measure 4 basic variables, and these give you 16 different personality types, and they actually divide the entire population into 16 different groups. So the 4 things that they measure are, firstly, extroversion versus introversion, and this is where you get your energy from. Do you get your energy from being around other people, or do you get your energy from being by yourself? The second thing that you measure is intuition versus sensing. Now, intuitive types are people that focus on possibilities, and so they tend to be future-oriented, whereas sensing people focus on facts, and so they tend to focus on the past and the present. The third aspect of personality that is measured in the Myers-Briggs is thinking versus feeling. This is how we process information with our head or with our hearts. Thinkers tend to, because they use their head, they always focus on efficiency and they tend to be a little bit more competitive, whereas feelers focus on harmony and relationship. The last aspect that this test measures is judging versus prospecting. Now, judging people, they like closed loops, and so they tend to want to make decisions so they know how to proceed, whereas prospecting people are a bit more spontaneous. They like to keep their options open, and so when they're making a decision, they aren't saying yes to one thing, they're saying no to many, many things, and so they tend to delay making decisions a little bit longer than their judging counterparts. And these differences, when it comes to relationships, can be quite comical and end up with a bit of fun and games.
Yeah, we really enjoyed doing this stuff. I'm an Entp, kind of the ultimate version of all of those things, actually. I'm very extreme on the extroversion, very extreme on the intuitive, the thinking, and the prospecting. And FOMO was invented for people like me. This personality type is just, like, it's painful to have to nail down one option and allow others to remain unexplored. This reflects itself in our holiday plans. And the problem is, for me, is that my wife is not an ENTP. So she's, in fact, the total diametric opposite of me. Where I'm an extrovert, she's an introvert. Where I'm intuitive, like the whole way through, we're totally different. So I'm going, let's go to as many places as possible on holiday and let's not make any reservations. Let's just hit the road and cram as much in as we can and fly by the seat of our pants. And Bern's going, yeah, I said no one ever. Like, she just hates that idea. And so we always end up with these ridiculous pool-style holidays that leave us both exhausted at the end, and my wife particularly having to recover from this, endurance test before the next school term kicks off. So we have that thing going on, and then it's just a classic introvert, extrovert. It's been helpful to realize that every time I'm going, let's go see people, you can wheel me in comatose to a room full of people and I will become energized by being around them, but it's totally the opposite for Bern, my wife. Even though she's amazing with people and you wouldn't know it, ISFJs often are kind of covert introverts. They seem like extroverts because they're great with people and they fool you all the time, but actually their battery's busy running out the longer they're hanging around in a room full of strangers. So Bern's going, once again, oh my word, if we do things your way all the time, I'm going to be a little dried up husk by the end of it. She'll be broken. And one of our kind of classic discoveries with this 16 personality profiles thing is that the ENTP, we're irritating people to be around because when it comes to ideas and thoughts, we're like the little kid that likes to pull wings off the bug. It's like the idea of playing with a different idea and playing devil's advocate and pulling it apart and going, well, you think that, but what about this? Is fun for us. We don't attach any emotional importance to these things. To just rip off someone else's ideas is a chore. And to allow ours to be ripped off is okay as well. It's like all fun and games in this like philosophical debating world. Now, my wife, means what she says and says what she means and has emotion attached to her opinion. So I'm going, but have you thought about it this way? And let's poke some holes in that idea and asking for banter. Vern's like, you insensitive brute, why are you doing this? And so I've had to learn to treat my wife's opinions much more carefully and gently.
I'm laughing, smiling and laughing here because Paul's an ENTP and I work with him. So when he's saying all those things, I recognize all those things. But I'm also laughing because I'm also an ENTP. And so and the other funny thing is that our wives have the same personality type as well. They're both ISFJs. And so ours is called the debater, where we like to throw ideas around. And our wives' personality type is called the defender. And they always want to defend people and defend things. So for them, stuff is personal and they're very caring and very supportive. And so these tensions are not the first time I've heard of them because we navigate the same sort of things. But here's the reality is that while Paul and I test the same on the Myers-Briggs, in many ways we're actually quite different. We love debating ideas together, we love talking theology, whatever it is, but in so many ways we're different. And our wives are different too. And so the reality about a personality test is it's not a destiny. It's just helpful information. It's just tools to help you navigate stuff and really to start a discussion. But the reality is that within relationships, background, the families we come from, the things that are important to us, the many nuances of life, life experiences, all these things make a real difference in terms of how people are wired and really the quality of relationship you're going to have and how you're going to connect and all those sorts of things. And in many ways, certainly within marriage, it takes a lifetime to get to know each other.
So this stuff is really helpful. I mean, the personality test is really helpful, certainly because you always think that you have 20/20 vision. You think you're the normal one and everyone else is the anomaly. And to start to have a little more understanding for yourself and a little more grace and sympathy for the people who are not wrong, not weird, just different from you, is really helpful. But let's kind of step back a moment, because no one is encouraging to get into romantic relationships. You're born, you get into adolescence, and you're looking for one. Whether they seem like a good idea or a bad idea, now as we look back and realize how complicated they are, no one has to convince you, really, to look for a romantic relationship, and yet they are complicated things. And so it's probably worth asking the question, why did God even design them in the first place? What's the point of these things? Why has God set it up so that male and female would be attracted to each other, so that we would have these kind of chemical things where we fall in love and all the complexities that result? What's it all for? What's the point, bro?
I think at the heart of God, we're going to start with God first and then we're going to get to us. At the heart of God, at the epicenter of who God is He's a relational, loving being. And we see this within the relationship of the Godhead, which is the Trinity. So the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit for all eternity have been hanging out and loving each other and love being with each other and celebrating each other. And it's just this complete picture of unity and love and affection and honor and really glorying in each other. And out of this relational bond, they create man. And it says that we're made in God's image. And so just like at the epicenter of God is this relational being, at the epicenter of us, we're relational beings. We're made for relationship. We're made for relationship with Him, and we're made for relationship with each other, within marriage and friendship and all these things. In the Garden of Eden, there's this beautiful picture of God coming in the cool of the day, in the evening, to come and walk with Adam. And you can imagine the kind of unity, the kind of experience of friendship and closeness that they had. And then God makes Eve, and it's, Adam's smitten, he's completely blown away, and they fall in love, and there's complete unity within that relationship too. And then Adam and Eve sin, and it breaks that intimacy. And not only does it break the relationship because of a lack of trust, like whenever we sin in relationships, it breaks trust, but it breaks the ability to connect. And so we see that our intimacy with God is broken, and then our intimacy with each other is broken. We see this in marriages. I don't think you've got to be alive for too long to know that marriage isn't the simplest thing in the world. We've all had parents that we've watched. We've all had friends, parents that we've watched. Marriage takes some working at, because we're trying to work against the brokenness that sin has resulted in us. Friendships become difficult. I think we've all been let down by friends. We've all found ourselves being attracted to someone more because of how they make us feel, or the kind of crowd we want to be seen with, rather than really who that person is in a relationship of loyalty and friendship. And these things are friendships, relationships, marriage is the best of life, but also the hardest of life too. And so sin has really messed this thing up. But the amazing thing is that God sends His Son. He sends Jesus to redeem us back into intimacy with Himself, but also to heal the relationship between each other. And that's God's heart for us. And you've got to understand that in relationships, whatever advice, whatever instruction God gives in His Word, the Bible, for relationships, it's always intended for more intimacy, not less, because that's who He is. So whether it's forgiving each other, or serving one another, or submitting one another, or speaking the truth in love, or waiting until you get married to have sex, that sex is reserved for the covenant of marriage, all of those instructions are intended to create and enhance intimacy, not lessen it, because that's who He is. And all of His deep works of grace in His life, how He redeems us, how He gives us a new identity, how He really sets us free of guilt and shame and all these things, they're intended to give us the capacity to connect and be intimate in ways that's not possible without His work in our lives. And so this is who God is, and this is His desire for us.
I love that. So much of what the world is shouting is that God's a killjoy and He wants to deprive us of stuff. But actually what good social research is starting to see, what the church has been preaching all along, what our lived experience is that when you take God at His word, what He makes available to you is a kind of intimacy and a connectedness that's just not possible otherwise. And it's what you were designed for. It's the most deeply satisfying thing. And that's where we're going to be going for the rest of this series, particularly in the marriage relationship, looking at how it's possible for God to redeem us into these amazing, connected, intimate relationships. So that's what we're going to get to. But for tonight, hopefully by now you've had a chance to do the 16 personality test yourself. If not, it's going to take about 10 minutes. You can just get it on your smartphone and do it quickly now. And work out if you are like Gaza and I, and you're that weird creature called an ENTP, or whatever you might be. And then there's a lot of information that site will give you, really, really good write-ups, much of which will seem freakishly accurate, like they've been reading your mail for the last little while. And what you should probably do this evening is just start to look at the beginning, the kind of summary and the strengths and weaknesses, and share that with the guys in the group. Just have a chat about who I am, who are you, oh my word, is that how you see that? I've never seen it that way. It all starts to make sense now. And enjoy that conversation as you start to discover the way God's made you, because that's a great stepping stone to knowing how you might be able to connect with someone else. So enjoy it and open up. It's fun.